Welcome to B&W Insights, a taste of industry news. I'm your host, Mark Seifert, and in today's episode, we'll explore the latest news in the world of MS4, regulations, inspections, and data gathering. Stick around for our discussion with Dan Bounds, where we dive into the water world of MS4 and how Baxter Woodman can help. Let's get started. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark.
So, how long have you been at Baxter Woodman, and what made you want to work in this world of MS4?
Coming up on 10 years.
Wow.
At Baxter and Woodman. And as growing up as a kid, I was always out at the lake, playing in the creeks, had just a passion for water quality, all things water. And after getting the engineering degree and entering the field, it's kind of a natural fit to me to go into water quality regulations, water quality improvement programs.
So going into college, you knew that water quality in the water world is where you wanted to spend your career?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, always had a passion.
That is awesome. You know, we've talked to other people who have jumped around not knowing exactly what they want to do, but to talk to someone who knew from a young age that, hey, water quality is my passion, want to work with water, that's really amazing. So what does MS4 stand for? I mean, we throw the term out all the time, but MS4, what is it?
So it's a regulatory program called the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Program, Clean Water Act driven. So federal requirements across the country for improving the quality of water that's discharging from our storm drains, pollution prevention, improving the quality of that water that's coming out into our local lakes and rivers.
So you mentioned this comes out of the Clean Water Act. Mm-hmm. So this is a federal law that's been around for how long?
Since Clean Water Act 1972.
Nice.
MS4 programs nationally, about 20, 25 years.
All right. Who's required to have an MS4 permit and to follow these regulations?
Most municipalities, unless they're very, very small.
Okay,
but
so
anybody in urbanized areas that discharge water through a separate storm drain system into a lake, river, a surface water body, they're going to have these requirements to improve the quality of that water.
So I know we have in infrastructure, we have combined sewers and separate sewers. So this is more for those communities who don't have combined sewers. They have a separate storm sewer system to make sure that they're not polluting the water based on what's being run off from rain and overland discharges.
That's right, because that water does not go to a wastewater treatment plant.
Mm-hmm.
It's a separate storm drainage system that goes directly into lakes, rivers. Some of our clients, some of our communities have some portions that are combined and separate. So it's just for the separate portion of those communities or communities that are completely separate for their stormwater drainage.
All right. So a little bit about your past. You used to be an inspector with the IEPA.
I did.
You spent some time in California working on MS4. What's some lessons that you learned, whether it be with the IEPA or in California, that has helped you grow in your time here at Baxter Woodman and helping our clients with their MS4 needs?
Sure. So as an Illinois EPA engineer, I got a really deep understanding of the regulatory programs, the requirements, the goals, how they work. And then when working with municipalities on those requirements and goals, I got a very good understanding of resources, budgets, what does it take to implement all of these different programs, the competing priorities that municipalities have, and that's where I come in to help find ways to implement, find ways within their current programs, their budgets to implement these requirements in a way that they can handle.
Now, you had mentioned in our previous conversations that, you know, some other states are I wouldn't say more ahead of the state of Illinois, but nationally there's a lot of different levels of MS4, and I believe that every nation or every state is trying to be, you know, the best provider of clean surface water into the rivers and creeks and everything. What are some of the things you're seeing nationally that are happening in this field?
You're right. Some of the East Coast, West Coast programs are 15 to 20 years ahead as a permitting program.
Wow.
So in my work out there, developing programs in California, coming back to Illinois, I was kind of from the future of what the MS program could be and what it might evolve to here locally.
All right.
Other programs have had that many more permit cycles, so the requirements have gotten more stringent into other areas that they haven't gotten to in the Midwest. such as business inspections.
Business, okay. So I was just about to jump in and say, what are some of those examples of things that you saw that are now happening in Illinois that, we should be looking towards? And a little teaser for our clients to say, hey, this might be something that I've seen in the past.
Yeah, so the current MS4 programs in Illinois, for example, the permit expired actually 3 years ago. So a draft has been public noticed with the new requirements that are going to become effective when that new permit comes out.
Okay.
One of the bigger, more resource-intensive requirements that's in that public notice draft is an inventory of municipal facilities and tracking and data collection at those municipal facilities, including quarterly dry weather and wet weather inspections at every facility that a municipality owns or operates.
Wow. So it is really advanced what's coming down the pipeline here.
That and some additional data tracking requirements, annual reporting requirements, public education and information and involvement requirements. So there are several new requirements coming.
Overall, taking a step back for a second, why are we talking about MS4? What is the driver behind having these regulations? What came about that said, let's regulate storm sewers?
Well, it's all about water, right? Yeah, that need for water. We all need clean water. Clean Water Act programs, including the MS4 program underneath the Clean Water Act, is about protecting our local resources, our natural water quality resources.
All right. Past 10 years, how have permits changed?
The program has definitely evolved over time. The first permit for every area within the country was just get a program going. Just get the information out to people about goals of the program, start collecting data, start monitoring those types of information. And then over time, every 5 years or so when a new permit would come out, the program would evolve into more detailed analysis, more detailed monitoring, other types of implementation measures to get after those that might be contributing to water pollution problem within the community.
As a former public works director, I was always being pulled in the direction of, we need to fund water main replacement, we need to fund wastewater treatment plants. Why should municipalities make sure they're funding their MS4 program?
We are talking about Clean Water Act regulatory compliance. IEPA does inspect municipalities on a periodic basis to make sure the program is being implemented. So having the budget to make sure the goals and the measures within the permit are actually happening is going to be important for compliance.
You mentioned inspections.
Yep.
How can a utility get ready for an MS4 inspection? What's the, I'm sure they're going to want to bring you out and have a conversation with you, but throughout the entire year, what then can they do to get ready for that inspection that they know is coming eventually?
Yeah, so if IEPA calls and say, hey, I want to do a review or an inspection or an audit of your MS4 program, call me. That's always my first recommendation.
Nice.
Let me come out, talk about where your program is for the year, what kind of paperwork do we need to get together or documentation. If something doesn't exist, can we get it in place really quick to prepare for that audit? And then I actually will assist during the audit to help field the questions and explain how the program's being implemented for that local municipality.
I think one of the big things throughout the year, though, keeping track of data, such as leaf sweeping, things like that. And what are some of those things that people should be just keeping an eye on, paying attention to? Hey, we do that. We should really keep track of that.
Yeah, so always keeping the annual report due every June 1st in mind while implementing programs. That information is going to have to be there at reporting time. So having somebody responsible for making sure that information is getting collected, being tracked and managed in a way that it's going to be ready to prepare that annual report each year is important.
Nice. Is there a public engagement portion of MS4?
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit about that. Is it social media? Is it meetings? What's the component that we as a municipality have to let our residents know about?
Sure. There's several things underneath that public involvement, public education portion of the program. The first is a public meeting is required about the MS4 program. A lot of communities aren't having a public meeting dedicated to that topic so that residents know about the program, about pollution prevention and water quality improvement, and the other implementation measures.
All right, so that public meeting, that's where a municipality can they have it during their regular council meeting to talk about it? Or?
Yes, they can.
So they can involve it in a regular council meeting or a village board meeting, but they need to let their residents know about the program, which is very interesting that that's a requirement. And I know communities that I've talked to have that meeting, but there's also a lot of great resources out there in terms of social media.
Yes.
And they could reach out to those organizations because that's a component as well, correct?
Yes. Starting with the municipality's website, there's requirements for information that has to be on their website. Plus, it's also a very good tool for getting information out to the public. But then other avenues for social media, Facebook pages, are used by communities to get the word out and let everybody know what the goals of the program are.
In our last podcast, we talked to Andy Zlettel from our spatial technology team, and he talked about our GIS collecting data. And it just seems like there's a natural fit between the amount of data being collected for MS4 and GIS. Have you seen that happen, where that natural progression of MS4 data being implemented into GIS?
Absolutely. Yeah, once a community has their storm drain system in a GIS, we can start using that as a really valuable tool for tracking where the outfalls are, where inspections have been performed as required by the permit, and what's the frequency of those inspections. Are there any problem outfalls where we're seeing frequent water quality issues that might want to increase the frequency of inspections in those areas? So GIS is a really valuable tool for implementing.
And about those outfall inspections, I know in talking to Andy, field staff can now take pictures and get that data right away. How important are those pictures to your inspections of the outfalls?
They're great, just to know what conditions were at the time, and that'll be saved within the GIS and history. It's a good thing to have to go back to. And just doing that work real time with a tablet in the field at the outfalls, at the location to get those photos is great.
And outfall inspections are part of the annual permit. And how often should outfalls be inspected?
It's usually a summertime, fall kind of endeavor because they're required during dry weather.
Okay.
So monitoring wet weather, that's when that's performed. But summertime, early fall for dry weather outfall inspections is the best time.
Besides, outfall inspections with using a tablet and walking there, is there any innovative tools that you've seen communities use for MS4, whether it be a drone or anything like that to do these inspections, or is it boots on the ground walking there through the forest?
It's mostly boots on the ground, documentation, reporting. Some communities that have water quality more of a central part of the economy will do other things like business inspections or kind of above and beyond because they know they have certain issues with certain types of dischargers or businesses that they'll want to take a look at.
So this really transcends public works. The community development department of some of these municipalities is involved as well because of whether you're saying tourism or it's a central part of the city, correct?
Correct, yeah. One of the things I say most often in this program is it is not a one-department program. Public works, engineering, code enforcement, website, public education, sometimes police, sometimes fire when there are spills and accidents that have to be addressed to, multiple departments working together to implement the permit program.
And that's very important. You mentioned spills with the emergency management and fire department. If there is a spill, having your storm sewer system documented is very important, correct?
Correct. Knowing where that spill is going to go is really important for being able to respond to it and possibly notify those downstream that event has happened.
Does the MS4 program ever end? Or is this forever?
Clean Water Act, will it ever end? As long as the Clean Water Act is around, the MS4 regulations will be around.
Good. What is one thing you've experienced while working with MS4 that's made you get a greater appreciation for our municipal partners and seeing what they're doing out there every day?
Several things. MS4 work has gotten me into chloride reduction programs.
Okay.
And a big contributor to chlorides in our natural waters is this road salting. Salt being sodium chloride enters the environment. Just getting to know what happens with winter operations, the amount of preparation, training, resources that goes into running a de-icing program in the wintertime, while also trying to meet water quality goals. At the same time, that's been really enlightening.
Right now, what should municipalities be looking at in terms of MS4?
Summertime, early fall, I mentioned before, is a good time to do dry weather inspections, the type of field work that needs to be done. And then moving into winter is a great time to do the program assessment requirements, documentation, getting ready for spring and working on the annual report.
I know for inspections, there's some rules like it can't rain for so many days or you can't have precipitation. What are a couple of those little nuances for inspections?
Okay. The MS4 program does require some sort of monitoring. Most communities are doing quarterly monitoring, so that has to be done during wet weather when there's actual stormwater discharges.
Right.
And on the flip side, looking for illicit discharges or dumping, that's best done in a dry weather period. So you don't want it to have rain for a while when you're out trying to do dry weather inspection.
Yeah, and sometimes in northern Illinois, we definitely have some times where it's very dry. But speaking to our warmer weather clients, are there any drivers for them in terms of that how it changes for them, specifically our Florida clients or somewhere there who, their MS4, they're getting rain every day. They may not have a dry season, but also they're discharging to a lot of tourist spots, and whether it be a Gulf, the ocean, lakes, what's some of the most important things for our warm weather clients?
Some of our warm weather clients have a rainy season, so it only rains a certain portion of the year, and MS4 implementation is a little different when it's not raining every month.
Right.
It's just raining in a wet season. So preparation for that wet season, catch basin cleaning, street sweeping, getting ready to remove pollutants from the land surface before they get into stormwater discharge is important.
Thanks, Dan, for coming down today to record this episode. If you have any questions or comments or have any ideas for future topics, reach out to us. For our entire team here at Baxter Woodman, thanks for listening.